So most of us have all experienced bloating at some stage in our lives, right? But it's not always the most comfortable thing, and especially when it is happening frequently. So why I am bloated and how can I prevent it? Before you go cutting out certain foods, or even worse, entire food groups like carbohydrates or dairy products, you need to watch this video. My name is Bonnie McGibbon and I am a registered dietitian and health coach, and welcome to my Balancing Nutrition channel. So firstly, let's talk about what the hell bloating actually is. So bloating is basically when your stomach feels overly full or stretched as a result of excess gas and liquid or even solids in the gut. So you may also experience symptoms like cramping and burping and diarrhea and constipation, gas and pain. It can occur when the contents of your stomach move too slowly through the intestine. So when you have weak stomach muscles for a number of different reasons, it can cause the diaphragm to contract and tense rather than relax, and therefore you get those symptoms. So there are actually a number of things that can cause bloating, but I want to go over some of the main culprits now. So number one, swallowing air can actually cause bloating. So now I'm sure you're not just sitting there gulping air like a fish, but this tends to happen when eating too fast or when consuming carbonated drinks, including fizzy water, and also when chewing gum too. And the reason that swallowing excess air can cause bloating is because when you swallow air, it gets trapped in your stomach and intestines. And this air expands and puts pressure on the walls of your digestive system, causing that feeling of bloating and discomfort. So for those of you with irritable bowel syndrome, you're actually often more sensitive to changes in the volume of gas in your intestines too, meaning that even small amounts of swallowed air can cause significant bloating and discomfort. So in rare cases, excessive bloating caused by swallowed air can be a symptom of an underlying medical condition as well, such as hiatal hernia or gastroparesis. But if you are experiencing severe or persistent bloating, it's crucial to consult your doctor or dietitian just to rule out underlying medical issues. Okay, so culprit number two is hormonal changes in women, particularly before your period. Now, without going into too much detail here in terms of the changes that occur hormonally, progesterone is a hormone that rises in the days leading up to your period, and it prepares your body for potential pregnancy by thickening the uterine lining and increasing water retention. So this water retention can cause bloating throughout the body, including the abdomen area, which is the most common area. Now, progesterone also has a relaxing effect on smooth muscles, including those in the digestive system. This relaxation can slow down the movement of food through the digestive tract, leading to those feelings of bloating and constipation. And not to mention the fact that you can often be more sensitive to changes in the intestine during this phase of the cycle too. So there are additional factors that may contribute to hormonal bloating, such as certain foods. So for example, salty or sugary foods, which can worsen water retention and bloating, as well as stress that can increase cortisol levels, which can further contribute to bloating, and also caffeine and alcohol. So these substances can irritate the digestive system and worsen bloating symptoms, and more so during that period of the cycle. Now, of course, our menstrual cycle is a natural part of our bodily fluctuations as females, right? So there's not a huge amount you can do to change the hormonal shifts you experience month to month. But I do want to give you a few tips to managing this hormonal bloating so you don't have to suffer through it all the time. So number one, try to limit salty and processed foods, especially in the luteal phase of your cycle or the days leading up to your period, and incorporate fiber-rich fruits and vegetables instead. Make sure to drink plenty of water and stay hydrated to help reduce water retention and reduce constipation. And also try your best to reduce stress levels. And I know that's easier said than done, but practicing relaxation techniques like yoga or meditation or anything that is going to relax the nervous system can be beneficial. And lastly, exercise regularly. So physical activity can help regulate hormones and improve digestion, and this doesn't need to be anything strenuous. A simple walk can be beneficial for symptoms of bloating. All right, moving on to the next one. So the third most common cause of bloating is related to dietary factors that you can avoid or minimize to reduce and prevent bloating. And that's not to say cut out foods or food groups, but I will go through some of the common culprits now. So one of the main ones is rich fatty foods. So think things like fried foods, fatty cuts of meat like pork belly, creamy sauces, processed foods like potato chips and pastries. These foods take a long time to digest and therefore can cause or worsen bloating. Another one is salty foods. So anything that you add lots of salt to, or packaged foods which are high in sodium, which is a lot of them these days, that can cause water retention and bloating. And also alcohol, especially beer, because it contains carbon dioxide and fermentable carbs, both of which produce gas. So another common cause of bloating is sugar replacements in sugar-free foods. So sugar alcohols, for example, such as sorbitol, mannitol, and xylitol, which are commonly used sweeteners in sugar-free gum, candies, baked goods, etc. They can ferment in the gut, leading to gas, bloating, and diarrhea in some people, especially when consumed in large amounts. So artificial sweeteners such as aspartame, saccharin, sucralose can also disrupt the balance of gut bacteria and cause gastrointestinal issues like bloating, gas, and discomfort in some individuals. So foods that commonly have these ingredients in it are your sugar-free foods, right? So you can get sugar-free lollies and chocolates and all these things these days, but also in protein powders and protein bars and fizzy drinks, etc. So it always pays to read the label. Now, FODMAP-rich foods are another culprit of bloating, which you'll likely be familiar with if you have been diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome or IBS, or think you might have it. But it basically just refers to short-chain carbohydrates which escape digestion and are fermented in the colon by the gut bacteria, which then produces gas. So common FODMAP foods include things like onion and garlic and beans and legumes and lentils, high fructose foods like apples and dried fruit, etc. But before you go putting yourself on a 12-week FODMAP elimination diet, first look at other aspects of your diet and lifestyle that may be causing bloating. And if you do decide that you want to try a FODMAP elimination diet, please do it under the care of a registered dietitian, as it can actually do a lot of harm and make symptoms worse if you cut out some of the foods unnecessarily, and especially if you do it for too long. Okay, moving on to the next one. Now, celiac disease and Disaccharides, I think that's how you say it, deficiency can cause bloating. So celiac is an allergy to gluten that can lead to inflammation in the gut, which can cause bloating. But this is actually a really serious condition, and it's not the same as a gluten intolerance. So when you have celiac, you really need to avoid gluten as much as possible, even from just something as simple as cross-contamination, like using the same toaster as someone who's eating gluten-containing food, because it can actually do a lot of damage to your gut over time. Now, Disaccharides deficiency is a lack of digestive enzymes. So think lactase, sucrase, and maltase, which help to break down foods. So if you don't have enough of these, your food isn't getting digested properly and therefore can lead to bloating. So if you think this may be the case for you, then you can get the levels of enzymes tested by asking your doctor, but it is a lot rarer than you may think. So those summarize some of the most common causes of bloating in people, but to prevent or minimize bloating, here are my key tips. So obviously number one, well, I think it's fairly obvious, avoid swallowing air as much as possible. So you can do this by chewing food well, eating slowly, avoiding or minimizing consumption of carbonated drinks, and minimizing consumption of gum as well, or just cut it out entirely. Avoid artificially sweetened foods and drinks. Reduce stress as much as possible, because that is actually another key cause of bloating. And manage constipation and bowel issues, which you can do by slowly increasing the fiber in your diet by choosing whole grains, fruit and vegetables, nuts and seeds. However, important to note that if you increase fiber too rapidly, this can cause more gas and bloating and actually constipation. So make sure you do it in small increments. And also make sure you're drinking plenty of water each day to help reduce the chances of constipation. And lastly, get moving. So as I previously mentioned, physically moving can also stimulate the contents of your gut to move along, which reduces constipation and bloating and other IBS related symptoms. Okay. So if you are doing all of this and you're still experiencing symptoms, it could be something more serious, or it could be an underlying medical condition like what I said earlier, gastroparesis or hiatal hernias or something else. So in that case, I would encourage you to see your doctor or your dietitian for further help, instead of just trying to cut out foods or food groups by yourself, because again, that can actually cause intolerances and deficiencies and mess up your gut microbiome as well. So that is all for this video. I hope you found it helpful. Please like and subscribe for more health, nutrition hacks and facts, and comment below if there's anything in particular you want me to cover.